August 28th, and the center of Moscow is in chaos.
UAVs are attacking Moscow, the city center, and the Moscow region. This is a real tragedy right now. Drones are crashing into apartment buildings. There's a fire.
Here are the fragments.
Look, that apartment is on fire.
It exploded so loudly it was terrifying. I just managed to run away in time.
Everything is burning. Apartments are on fire. People are screaming. There's a massive evacuation.
It's just awful. God forbid anyone has to go through this. Muscovites are screaming. They're going to shoot me now, please. A carpet security protocol has been introduced at Vnukovo and Sheremetyevo airports.
Takeoffs and landings are prohibited. There's panic and evacuation there.
The SBU has launched a new phase of Operation Spiderweb.
Military equipment convoys have been blown up, and the Navy has also destroyed a Russian Black Sea Fleet boat. It was blown up. Boom, boom! We'll discuss the attacks on the Black Sea Fleet, military airfields, convoys with tanks, fuel, and equipment, as well as the explosions in Moscow and the Moscow region with Oleksandr Demchenko right now.
The Ukrainian Armed Forces are attacking Moscow, the city center, and the Moscow region. Drones are crashing into high-rise buildings thanks to Russian electronic warfare. There's a fire, apartments are burning, people are screaming, and a large-scale evacuation is underway. At Vnukovo and Sheremetyevo airports, the carpet plan has been implemented and takeoffs and landings are prohibited. There's already a massive collapse at passport control in Vnukovo. There are huge crowds of passengers there. Everyone is sobbing and crying because no one can depart. People are arguing, almost fighting, according to Russian social media channels. Trainloads of fuel and military equipment have been blown up. The Navy has destroyed a boat belonging to Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Ukrainian forces struck a boat off the western coast of Kherson. Attack on the Atlas oil depot. For the first time in a very long while, we are attacking a refinery. Let's discuss the new special operations by the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the main intelligence directorate, and the Security Service of Ukraine with top analyst Oleksandr Demchenko right now. Sasha, welcome.
Hello, Dasha. So what about the planes? What about, tell me, the airfields and airports? What's going on with Vnukovo? Just now, Malyuk came out and said that an attack was being prepared against the Security Service of Ukraine, that an explosion was being planned at the SBU headquarters on Volodymyrska Street in Kyiv. What does this mean? It means that the Ukrainian SBU and probably Ukrainian intelligence are preparing major explosions, preparing blasts at decision-making centers. I don't know if there will be an explosion on Lubyanka Square. I somewhat doubt that they will actually blow up the Lubyanka specifically, but for some reason, it's likely that the General Staff or Zarbat on Frunzenskaya and a number of other strategically important decision-making centers will be blown up or there will be some kind of sabotage. Let's unite, show support, leave likes and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Dasha's YouTube channel, to Dmitry Gordon's YouTube channel, where all of this is also being published. But what's very important, Dasha, is that, of course, there will be a response. It continues. There will be a special operation called Potina 2. I can just feel it with every fiber of my being. I don't even know. With my gills, my nerves, my gut feeling, whatever you call it. I just sense it. Very soon, there will be Potina 2. I don't know what will go up in flames. Maybe Putin's plane will burn. Maybe there will be an explosion of Putin's plane, or they'll blow up Shoigu, or there will be an assassination of Medvedev, who recently started threatening Trump and Putin. I even heard that Putin beat him up at night. Putin's security guards beat up Medvedev. Well, what do you expect? After making such statements, the drunk man started talking about how he almost told Trump that he would hand over nuclear missiles to Iran. Trump started threatening him, and apparently Putin just snapped. He had already been shaking for several days in a row. I can see that the special operation will continue. I have told you repeatedly that the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Ukrainian intelligence, the intelligence community, and Ukrainian security forces in general are creating conditions under which any potential of the Russian army's military technical capabilities is being destroyed in order to block and neutralize Russian offensive actions now in various directions. This includes Donbass, the southeast specifically, and of course the northern direction where Putin wants to take Sumy, where Putin wants to create the so-called sanitary zone. Although at this point, it's him who needs to call for medics. And if not him, then all his associates, including Medvedev and the rest of them. But the fact that everything has come to a standstill, the fact that Sobyanin is shouting, having already twice ended up in intensive care and come out after strokes, these are the kinds of news that are absolutely logical and consistent. Ukraine is consistently striking military targets. They have started hitting oil refineries again, as you mentioned. And after all, it was Russia that first violated this so-called energy truce just recently. And in the Sumy region, they are striking, leaving people without electricity and water. And in the Lviv region, they recently struck Lviv, leaving people without electricity and water. They are striking energy facilities. So why the hell shouldn't Ukraine strike those energy facilities as well? It's obvious that any truce has been broken. It's clear that the so-called energy pause has been disrupted, that Trump has gotten busy with other things, started leaking or shifting things around, and so on. Well, that's it. This means the board has been flipped and Ukraine has resumed strikes on oil refineries. And against the backdrop of a worsening economic crisis in Russia, listen, Russia's Minister of Economic Development, Reshetnikov, came out, had the nerve, such an insolent guy, and told Putin directly, the country is in recession, take cover, it's over for everyone. Well, how can someone be so rude to say such terrible words in front of the president of Russia, words incomprehensible to the Russian people? Recession. What kind of un-Russian word is that? He should have just said, the economy is done for, we're screwed, that's it, for the Russian Federation. But they've calculated it precisely, yes, that by the end of this year, that's it. And after that, they can't go any further. If oil stays like this, even if Trump is like this, if the sanctions are like this, if Ukraine keeps resisting like this, then that's it. We need to understand ourselves. We've seen over the past few days a whole cycle of these various news stories, right? The news that comes to us. An assassination attempt on Zelensky in Poland was foiled. An attempt on Yermak's brother was foiled. An attempt on Dmytro Gordon was foiled. Why? Because apparently Vladimir Putin has realized for himself that he cannot do anything effective about the situation in Ukraine. If he can't take Ukraine as it is, then he needs to eliminate the leadership and to stir everything up from the inside, to create some kind of chaos within Ukraine. He can't do it any other way, and he won't be able to. He realized that he's stuck. He realized that it has all failed. He realized that the summer offensive would bring him nothing except some isolated PR. Well, listen, the Second World War lasted 4 years right here on this territory, if we're talking about after the attack on the Soviet Union. It actually lasted much longer. Some people count from 39, I count from 32 or 33, but that's not important. The big war lasted 4 years, right here on this territory of the Soviet, post-Soviet, Soviet space. And what was the result? Berlin. But here, damn it, what does he have? 3.5 years, and in reality, this mess has been going on much longer, stuck in this swamp. Russians are dying in droves. He sends these corpses to Ukraine so he doesn't have to bury them himself or spend money on them. Not a penny, not a kopeck. And as for himself, when it comes down to it, he can't do anything. He can't do anything. That's why what we're seeing now, and we'll see even more of it going forward, Vnukovo will be blown up, and the fleet will blow up again, or something else will happen. They're threatening with the Baltic fleet over there, but they'll blow up their own fleet to hell or sink it themselves. They don't care. And they'll have problems in Crimea and in Siberia. If Siberia has already gone up in flames once, why do we think it won't happen a second time? Well, everything always repeats itself. The show just keeps going according to the script. A good show goes on several times. Then it's premiere after premiere after premiere. You know how it is, right? A good show can have a premiere 3 or 4 times. It's the same here. There will be Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and Web 4. It's not for nothing that Malyuk came out and said there was an attempt to destroy the main headquarters, the main SBU office in Kyiv. A director, the head of such a service, doesn't just say things like that for no reason. This means a response is being prepared, and it means that the response will target the most important decision-making centers.
Sasha, what is your opinion on the strikes and the destruction of the Russian Black Sea Fleet boat? Because it's reported that since the beginning of the war, Russia has already lost 28 ships and boats due to threats. The Russian fleet is withdrawing from occupied Sevastopol. The main forces are now in Novorossiysk, and only submarines remain in Crimea. I would really like us to eliminate all the ships in Novorossiysk and all the submarines, of course.
I'm not laughing because of the boat, Dasha. The boat is, of course, very good. It's a big achievement. In general, any strike and sinking of a boat, the destruction of an aircraft is very difficult. The destruction of an entire train of tanks, like what happened recently, right? They wiped out a whole train of Russian tanks. That's a huge achievement. 41 aircraft, that's colossal. That's a legendary achievement. I'm laughing for another reason. Who commands the boats in Russia? Nikolai Platonovich Patrushev. So, we've talked about Putin having a stroke, a heart attack, Sobyanin having 2 strokes. I think after losing another boat, Patrushev is already in intensive care with a stroke or heart attack, like everything just short-circuited for him. Well, damn, he screwed up the Black Sea Fleet. Ukraine doesn't have a navy. The sea is blockaded. The fleet really had been degrading constantly since the very beginning, ever since independence. Russia tried to cut it up, destroy it. Well, they did everything, occupied Crimea, did it all, blockaded the Sea of Azov and part of the Black Sea. And then Ukraine went and destroyed the Russian Federation's fleet in the Black Sea. Well, all right. Where is Ukraine and where is the Pacific Ocean? Where is Desantnaya Bay? Well, they marched, they traveled tens, hundreds of thousands of meters, kilometers. They made it there and blew up the Russian Pacific Fleet to smithereens. The strategic fleet, damn it, the nuclear triad, my friends. Who is in charge of all this? Now they're shouting that the Baltic Fleet will be sunk. They'll sink it themselves. They'll do everything themselves out of their own stupidity. Narishkin and Patrushev together. But who is to blame for this? Who commands the entire navy and oversees these matters in Putin's administration? Patrushev. So what? Where are the results? Just sinkings, nothing but sinkings. He sent him there out of spite so that he wouldn't try to seize power and push his own son in there. Well, fine, he sent him, and that's that. He was supposed to oversee one fleet, another, a third, a fourth, and so on. Well, fine, the cruiser Moskva sank. Let's say that's not Patrushev's fault, although he was the secretary of the Security Council at the time. But what about now? This is your area of responsibility. And over there, things are burning. Over there, things are sinking. And over there, bridges are being blown up. And where are you? I'll tell you where. He's busy with agriculture. He's sending all that. He's sending expensive potatoes to Lukashenko. He's taking potatoes from Lukashenko's cellars and so on. But the most interesting thing is something else. He has Roselkosbank, Patrushev does, and so does his son. What is Roselkosbank? For those who don't know, Roselkosbank is the main cesspool in Russia through which all the money is laundered, all the foreign currency, because it's not under sanctions, it's not sanctioned, and the Europeans and Americans don't want to put it under sanctions. So that's what he's busy with, laundering money for himself and for Putin. And recently, he even seized Domodedovo. Well, okay, so you say that Domodedovo has a plan carpet. Who has the carpet plan? Where is this Aladdin sitting? Nikolai Platonovich. Here. And there's a monkey named Boo running around somewhere, some other monkey of his own, Dima Medvedev, who shouts every single day when drunk that he has some kind of nuclear charge for this or that country. He's got a nuclear bomb for Ukraine. He's got a nuclear bomb for Iran. He's got a nuclear bomb for Trump. At this rate, he'll end up with a nuclear bomb falling somewhere in his own backyard. But the problem is something else, Dasha. You see, we joke around like this, but there's another side to it. They've recently started talking about a dirty bomb. Have you noticed Putin has started bringing it up? A dirty bomb. Ukraine is supposedly making one. I'm trying, I'll do everything to make sure Ukraine doesn't strike. I hope they won't strike. First of all, Ukraine doesn't have the technology right now, at least, to make a dirty bomb for Putin. Although, to be honest, I'd rather put him not in a bunker, but in a portable toilet. But just imagine the headline, Putin's portable toilet blown up, the whole Kremlin covered in crap. But Dasha, that's not the point. The point is something else. Look, I'm glad to see you smiling. See, I managed to lift your spirits a bit today. I hope I did the same for you too, dear viewers, my friends. So the thing is, they are probably escalating the situation. They are probably, in a way, telling all of us, look, we're preparing a provocation with something nuclear. And what kind of nuclear provocation could they be preparing? Well, they need their own nuclear power plants for that. But there are others as well. Well, for example, the Zaporizhzhia plant. I'm worried that in the near future, they might try to stage another sabotage, provocation, arson, explosion, or shelling of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in order to use it for blackmail. But if Trump was able to strike, as they believe, not with nuclear weapons, but with weapons deadly to nuclear arsenals, bombs, the most powerful and lethal aerial bombs in the world from B-2 bomber planes, then that means we can do it too. That's where all the talk about the dirty bomb comes from. That's the way out. Aha, look, we're mass producing the Oreshnik now. Now we're going to use the Oreshnik. We're going to strike Kyiv or wherever else he decides to hit with his Oreshnik. Whether it reaches its target or not, we don't know. But why? If Trump is allowed to do it, then I can do it too. That's what Vladimir Putin thinks. You see, he didn't finish off Iran, even though he could have, and that was a mistake. If he had finished them off, then Putin would have been done for too. But these guys thought, aha, he didn't finish them off. So if we hit with the Oreshnik, or if we launch a dirty bomb, or pull off some other kind of nuclear stunt, well, nothing will happen to us either. Nothing happened to him, so nothing will happen to us either. And why not? That's what Vladimir Putin is thinking to himself. And now, attention, the most important question. When Donald Trump was negotiating with Lukashenko about Iran, when he was setting all this up, how exactly will Donald Trump react if the Kremlin pulls off such provocations? After all, it's obvious to everyone, to all those guys in the Kremlin, that yes, events are accelerating. They're pushing everything forward because there are no achievements, nothing to sell, and they need to do something. They need to do something massive, something big and significant so that, everything gets turned upside down. So that Trump understands everything. Let's sit down, sign the papers, and stop shooting. Just like with Israel and Iran. They were winning, the Israelis. But then he came in and said, let's keep everything as it is. I destroyed 3 factories there, and that's enough. And the fact that they took some of the missiles out, and the fact that Putin, I'm already sure of it, Dasha, Putin has now made a decision. Last night, even at night, he decided to help Iran create nuclear weapons. He needs this. He needs a precedent. He needs another North Korea in the region, but in a different place. You understand? This is the world we live in, a world where they struck once and thought that was enough. But in reality, they could have finished it off. And they didn't finish it, just like with Putin.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Friends, please like this video. In the comments, write a few kind words in support of Ukraine, let us know where you're watching from, and share your thoughts on this news and the information from Oleksandr Demchenko. And a very important point, Sasha. I just remembered the words of Andriy Yermak, who made a statement that Ukraine has already tested ballistic missiles and is preparing to launch these ballistic missiles into mass production. This is supposed to happen in the near future. He didn't specify exactly when, but he said that the ballistic missiles have already undergone successful tests at the front. Given that Moscow and St. Petersburg are military targets, they are asking us to attack them. And Gorbunin also gave an interview to the BBC where he said that Ukraine should, among other things, have nuclear weapons. And Ukraine can mass-produce ballistic missiles. How do you feel about the prospect of Ukrainian ballistic missiles, attacks on military targets in St. Petersburg and Moscow, making it so that Russians simply can't live their lives?
I think ballistic missiles will appear in the near future. I think Ukraine will launch ballistic missiles at military targets, including in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Leningrad region, and Moscow region. All of this will happen. And of course, this will ruin all of Vladimir Putin's plans. You shouldn't think that Ukraine is going to engage in terrorism. Unlike Russia, we do not commit acts of terror on their territory. But as for military targets, of which there are many, spread across the vast expanse of the Russian Federation, these strikes will happen. Ukraine will soon have those missiles, long-range Neptunes and other missiles, which will, in one way or another, replace the shells, munitions, and missiles that Germany, the United States, and a number of other countries have not yet provided us in sufficient quantities, or have not given permission to use these missiles to strike certain military targets. This will already be a Ukrainian development. As for nuclear weapons, Dasha, officially Ukraine will not have nuclear weapons. Obviously, we don't want to get ourselves into a situation like Iran's. We understand perfectly well that even at the beginning of Israel's nuclear developments, the Americans imposed sanctions. They were against it. They restricted, did not transfer aircraft, and even took back American F-16s, by the way, at that time. All of that happened. That's why we shouldn't get involved in this. But officially, it won't happen. Israel also didn't do anything officially. But if you're being threatened by a thug who isn't just holding a pistol, but a nuclear pistol, what are you going to do? If America is constantly being ripped off, if all of Europe has caved in and is just waiting for a call from America, what are you going to do? So when for many, many years we said that Ukraine would follow the Israeli scenario in one form or another, in one way or another, we were right. All those people who said this did so for one simple reason. There simply isn't any other option. I'm not calling for the creation of anything. I'm just thinking logically. I always think logically. If you're facing a nuclear club, you have to defend yourself with something. So you need to have a small nuclear stone or some other kind of opposing force, something else to counter it, so to speak, a kind of remedy for this disease. That's the first point. Second, obviously, and I repeat myself, Israel also officially doesn't have anything. It hasn't joined any, hasn't signed any nuclear non-proliferation treaties. It doesn't hold any conferences. In Dimona, they have, 90 or however many missiles stationed there. That's enough for them to make sure there's no Iran nearby, no nuclear threats against them, and so that no one can threaten them with anything. And the Americans have joined Israel, not just now, but for the last 10 or 20 years, regardless of the aid and so on. For many, many decades. Why did they join forces? But when you have an ally who has everything, the newest, the most advanced technology that can conquer the airspace of a country the size of, say, 4 Germanys and France's combined in just a matter of days. So why wouldn't you join them? That's why I think that as soon as Ukraine gets very powerful weapons, and I'm not talking about nuclear, I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. I've never advocated for that. I actually believe that the most wonderful world is a world without nuclear weapons. One of the biggest mistakes was the creation of nuclear weapons. But, as soon as Ukraine gets modern weapons, truly modern forces and resources, as soon as it becomes clear to everyone that Ukraine can independently stand up to any neighbor, and not just a neighbor, no matter who it is, no matter what country it may be, then we won't have any problems with allies or with money or with funding or with military programs or with the economy. No one. Everyone will shut up about corruption and anti-corruption, damn. And everyone will be talking about how good, beautiful, strong, and developed Ukraine is. Because Ukraine will have everything it needs to, if necessary, rattle its keys, in front of whichever face it needs to.
Friends, let us know in comments what you think about Oleksandr Demchenko's latest statements. We work for an audience worldwide, so every like, comment, and subscription is priceless. Sash.
And friends, also write how much you like our duet with Dasha, because we work like a tractor every single time. Isn't that right, Dasha?
Sasha plus Dasha is our new format, which every week on my channel and on Dmitry Gordon's channel. They used explosives twice, each time with 100 kilograms. The head of the SBU on the third strike against the Crimean bridge. The SBU struck the Crimean bridge for the first time in 2022 using a vehicle loaded with 21 tons of explosives in TNT equivalent. And in 2023, it was attacked by 2 SBU Sea Baby combat drones over water and the third time underwater. We used 100 kilograms of explosives and then another 100 kilograms, so twice 100 kilograms each on the key supports of the illegal structure, said SBU head Malyuk. Sash, so when will the Kerch Bridge finally collapse? The main news, of course, will be its destruction.
Well, so when will it collapse in any case? We all understand perfectly well that anything installed illegally by the occupying authorities will collapse sooner or later. I have a question. Well, when you said that, do you know why I smiled? Because knowing a bit about Malik's psychology, I can just imagine what's going on in his head. He's probably sitting there, and when they show him these numbers, what was it, 100 and something, or 1,100, or whatever it was, right?
1,100 kilograms plus another 1,100 kilograms.
So he's counting it as 2,200. Damn, it wasn't enough. Next time, it'll probably be 5,000 or 10,000. Basically, he's already gathering explosives. The way you're calculating this, you need to put it in very simple terms. Vasily Malyuk is gathering new explosives for the Crimean bridge. He wants to do it for the 4th time. Apparently, he has some kind of fetish, some sort of personal thing that he wants to destroy the Crimean bridge, to go down in history as the destroyer of the Crimean bridge. And I think he's preparing not only himself for this, but all of Ukraine and the Russian Federation along with Putin. By the way, Dasha, I think that in Russia, they're really afraid of Malyuk. Very much so. I think Putin is afraid of Malyuk. I think his whole gang is afraid of Malyuk. I feel like they must have some kind of anti-Malyuk keychains over there, or maybe anti-Malyuk deodorants, Everything you can possibly imagine, they already have it. By the way, I think we should start sending them some merch, a little bit explosive, with images of Vasil Vasilovich Malyuk on it. But they're absolutely terrified. And he's creative, You have to give him credit. He's creative. One time he stuffs those trucks, then he sends out scooters, then he's looking for explosives, some kind of sea baby, which explosives would blow up the Crimean bridge better, and so on. They just sit there thinking, damn, he could stuff the Kremlin with those drones or fill up gum with those drones. And now probably they're checking Ostankino and Solovyov every single time. Maybe Solovyov already has a drone from Malyuk hidden somewhere inside him. No one knows, you see. They're terribly afraid. And it's very obvious by how intensely they constantly react to Malyuk's statements. And to Malyuk and to Budanov, by the way. And to all of them, to our entire intelligence and security community. They're really afraid of our security forces, no matter what. And these strikes on Kyiv, on Dnipro, that horrific attack on those children, yes, our children, and there were strikes on Kharkiv too. This is all out of helplessness. He can't do anything. He can't conquer. He can't win. He wants capitulation. He craves it, but there is no capitulation. He wants to remove Zelensky. He wants the destruction of Ukraine and Ukrainians, but he can't achieve this in any way. He's already tried everything, and nothing is working. And his biggest problem is that Putin has surrounded himself with people who are, in part, professionally unfit, who can't oversee the areas to which he has appointed them. Yes, they can steal, like Tsariko from Shoigu, or like Timur Ivanov, who is now facing 14.5 years. But they can't do anything else. Timur Ivanov was given the task of rebuilding Crimea and Mariupol. Where are Crimea and Mariupol now? All that's left is ruin and devastation, but he stole the money. And they're not capable of anything else. Then Chemezov comes in, Rostek, Putin's buddy, a KGB guy, and says, "We don't have enough money, damn it. We can't do anything. Panzer S-1. We've already got 48 of those missiles standing there. Sent a Panzer S-1 to Iran. It didn't work, damn it, the Panzer S-1. You see what I mean? They're all butterfingers over there. And he understands this perfectly well."
Sasha, we absolutely have to discuss the sabotage operations. These are trains loaded with military equipment, with fuel. We remember how a train carrying military equipment was attacked. Dozens of tanks and other military hardware. And just in the last 2 days, information has emerged that the GUR, the main intelligence directorate, also eliminated, destroyed, blew up trains on the occupied territory of Ukraine in the south, carrying fuel and military equipment. That too is a successful operation. It would be great to see something like that happen on Russian territory as well. What do you think?
And why is this important? Besides the fact that we acknowledge that this is a successful operation, why is it important? Because fuel, when you destroy the fuel, the equipment comes to a halt.
Yes.
So they arrive ready to fight, ready to push forward, ready to kill, right? But they got stuck, and now they're an easy target for Ukrainian drones, Ukrainian missiles, artillery, mortars, and so on and so forth. The equipment is immobilized. Can you launch an offensive, conduct offensive operations with equipment that's stuck? Remember February, March of 2022. They got bogged down in the swamps, right? They got bogged down. The fuel didn't arrive on time. There was no fuel. They were marching, wearing their uniforms, carrying their dress backpacks, planning to parade through Kyiv. They were coming from everywhere. They pushed through Sumy region, tried to go around somewhere near Zhytomyr. Chernihiv, Kyiv, they were pushing in from all directions. Well, they got bogged down. And where are they all now? Are they having a parade there, or rather in hell at a parade? That's why this is important, Dasha. It's important because, and I keep repeating this, if we're being serious, I've said it many times and I'll keep saying it. Right now, Putin's summer offensive is being disrupted. They're hitting the rear, they're striking fuel supplies, oil refineries, factories and plants. They're targeting drone technology there. Arsenals, aircraft and railways. Not the FSB, the one that was destroyed in Bryansk region, but they're hitting other railway lines of military significance, destroying entire freight trains loaded with tanks. All of this is to disrupt the summer offensive. And notice, there are results. We've started to recapture settlements one after another in the Sumy region. Already.
With Trump's rise to power, the situation with missile and drone attacks worsened by more than 50%. All military analysts wrote about this. So basically, Trump is just absolute evil, a horror that he brought into the world. In essence, Trump gave Putin his blessing for ongoing missile and drone strikes on our country's territory. I just read about this now. Analysts are saying that Russia will soon be able to launch 500, 600 drones. They're capable of it and they will do it. Sasha, what should we do? Because Trump just doesn't care about Ukraine. He gives his blessing to the attacks. He doesn't care at all. He's absolutely impotent when it comes to Putin.
Dasha, I don't have any cure. I don't have any pill to choose from. Whether to take the blue one or the red one. I don't have any prescription for this. Look, I only know one thing. I suspect, or rather, I have this hypothesis that, in fact, the decision to stop the war against Iran was made, at least in part, in Moscow. When the Iranian foreign minister came to Moscow late at night and spoke with Putin, Putin didn't just betray him, he helped Trump reach an agreement and renegotiate. It wasn't Qatar negotiating, it was Putin who was negotiating. And Trump knows this perfectly well. And it seems to me that right now a very difficult and turbulent situation is beginning for all of us. Putin will escalate, expand, and accelerate events while Trump will turn a blind eye because Putin helped him with Iran. I don't know if there was an exchange, if there was a deal, maybe there was nothing at all. I don't want to lie. I don't want to exaggerate or overstate things. But it seems to me that Putin was involved. Soon negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will resume. And we'll see from these negotiations, has Putin become more willing to make concessions after the events in Iran? Does he want to negotiate or not? What will Trump's reaction be? Will he allow Putin to strike? You've noticed, haven't you, that there has been no reaction from Trump to the recent strikes on Kyiv? But there was a reaction in the past. Well, fine, now Iran is done, there's peace there. Deal, deal, deal. He has already achieved everything. Or rather, he hasn't achieved a damn thing. He handed victory to a terrorist country, which will still carry out attacks in Washington. I have no doubt about that. I don't know if there will be an attack near the White House, but in Washington, in New York, they will carry them out. They always do, these Iranians, terrorist attacks. It's a terrorist country, a sponsor of terrorism. But he gave them victory, or, well, a partial victory. More precisely, well, definitely not a defeat. Although this country could have, this regime, to be precise, could already be lying in ruins and shambles. Vladimir Putin got involved. And we'll see in the near future what Donald Trump will do. And based on what he does, by analyzing his actions, we'll understand whether there was a deal with Putin regarding Iran or not. Did Putin sell his services? Then what did he trade his services to Donald Trump for?
Friends, Sasha and I are working for you, so every like, every comment, and every subscription is invaluable. That's why we ask you to stay engaged. Let us know where you're watching from and what you think about all this. A few kind words in support of the armed forces of Ukraine. At the end of every stream, I always ask Sasha for an optimistic forecast about what will happen in the near future. Sasha, please share your optimism. Maybe give our audience some hope, which is very important.
Ukraine will respond. Expect a response in the near future. I don't know from whom, Malyuk, Budanov, but expect a response from Ukraine. It's obvious that we will see more than one special operation in Russia in the coming days or weeks. It wasn't for nothing that Malyuk came out and said that they tried to do something in Kyiv, and that all these victims in Kyiv, in Dnipro, in Kharkiv, in Odessa, and in many other Ukra, in Sumy especially, in many other Ukrainian regions, in cities, they will be answered for, all of them, for this blood. It seems to me that after all, despite Europe's toothlessness, despite this NATO summit, which is also somewhat toothless, yes, despite these wordings, despite Trump, Ukraine, no matter what, will receive a certain amount of aid and will be able to stand up to Putin. And Putin's offensive, I believe in this. There is no certainty, but I believe in it. And I want you to believe in it too, my friends. Because the last thing Putin can break is our hope for something better, for a good life without Putin. So, I am 100% sure that this will come true, that Putin's summer offensive will stall. And I am sure that after it stalls, very dark days will come for Putin. Because not only has karma not been cancelled, but neither have the laws of economics, the laws of the Almighty, nor the laws by which humanity lives. That's why I am sure that Vladimir Putin will be punished. But before he is punished, he will punish everyone around him. I don't know what position he'll put whom in, but he already has a line formed by the wall. Medvedev, Shoigu, and so on down the list. So expect some very loud news from Russia, both literally and figuratively.
Our format, Dasha plus Sasha, Sasha plus Dasha, call it what you like, works just for you. Write a few kind words about the format. Let us know what you think. Top analyst Oleksandr Demchenko. Sasha, thank you so much and see you soon.
Until next time. Bye.